The music you listen to says a lot about who you are. In this podcast, we discuss how that music may shape your life. We talk to normal people with a love for music and people that are in the music industry in one form or another. My name is Craig Seibert, and we want to know your music story. Welcome to Music Musing. Welcome back to Music Musing. Got a special guest and another two-parter coming up for everyone. We did this a while back with father and daughter. This time it's father and son, but they are integrated into a podcast called You're Not Listening Podcast. I've got Shaun O'Loughlin on and his dad, Jim, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. They co-host a podcast where they each pick a song. Well, for the most part, they each pick a song every episode and they go into detail on that song. And I love that format. I've actually been on the show a couple times.
You were on it once, but we have plans to get you back on.
And I'm definitely looking forward to it. But yes, they do that, and they kind of microscopically look at songs and then discuss why you should be listening to this. And when my podcast, when it kind of started, was really geared towards rock and you know, metal and stuff. But you guys go everywhere. I mean, you guys go the gamut.
Yeah, that's the whole. My inspiration for this came when I was talking to some coworkers at a lunch break about Avenged Sevenfold song.
Oh,
I don't remember what song it was, but it was, one of their really fast guitar work songs. And I was talking about it, and we had some person give the, what you hear from everyone who isn't a regular hard rock listener. Well, how can you listen to that? It's just noise. They're just yelling and screaming and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, let me bring this up. And I brought the phone, I played it for him. And I was like, this is what you need to listen to. Like, listen to this guitar work. Listen to how fast this is. Listen to the intricacies of blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, I should be just recording this because there's a lot of people that should hear this stuff. And I talked to my dad. We have conversations like that all the time growing up. Like, I'd be in 8th grade and I'd be like, you need to listen to this new Blink-182 song. It's amazing. And he'd be like, shut up. I don't want to hear that. And then I would, no, listen to it. This is what I like about it. And like that. So we would do it our whole lives. And I said, Dad, we should start recording these. And I think people would enjoy listening to it. And so that's kind of where that came from.
It's almost identical to the way my brother and I started with ours. We were doing the same thing. We were having conversations and I'm like, I should just put this down. Everybody wants to hear this stuff. And, again, it's You're Not Listening Podcast. It's YNL Podcast on Twitter. And if you search it on Facebook or anywhere you find podcasts, it's out there. So
that's right.
But you kind of skipped into what we were going to talk about today. And again, I've kind of turned Music Musing into something where I like to talk to people in the industry or that have had music in their life constantly or that love music, have a love of music like you guys do, and find out why, where did it start? Why, how does it affect your life? And I normally jump to the beginning. I usually start at the beginning to find out, where the influences were. Obviously I'm going to have your dad on, so a lot of that's going to tie in too, but, I want to skip ahead just for a moment. We're musicians. We're also musicians. You've played in local bands, or did you actually make national, or?
So almost.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah. So I played in high school. I played in, local high school basement punk rock bands, playing pop punk stuff, like singing songs about life in high school. And we pretty much only played talent shows and local community events. And then in college, I joined a band with some of my friends who already had a band that they were looking to add bass and drums. They had a little acoustic duo thing going on, and they wanted to bring in like a full piece 5-6 piece band. And so I joined them on bass, and that, with that band we recorded an album. We played kind of all over New England, mostly in Boston and Providence, and then we played a couple shows in New York, and we won the Hard Rock Cafe Ambassadors of Rock. Was that what it was? Or Hard Rock Calling Battle of the Bands. And every big hard rock cafe in the country was hosting their own Battle of the Bands, and then the top 10 would get judged by these celebrity judges, the performances from those ones. and then the winner would go play at London Calling with Paul McCartney and a bunch of other massive
Holy
acts.
crap, I didn't know that.
So we won in Boston, which was really pretty amazing. We actually tied with someone and then had to do a second set, and we ended up winning.
Awesome.
And it was cool because I don't know if you know Ernie Bach Jr., but he is a local celebrity up here. He owns all kinds of car dealerships and stuff, and he's very well known up here in New England, and he kind of like was running the whole thing and hosting it and everything. So it was cool to have him up there and like introducing us and calling us out as the winners. And then we made the top 10 for the nation, and we were in like we ended up in like third place. Wow. So we were really close. I actually ordered my passport. I didn't have a passport, and I was like, I need to order my passport now because if we win, like I need to make sure it comes in time. Yeah. So that's like what prompted me to actually get a passport, which was kind of crazy.
That's hilarious. Were there any other big names on that?
None that I can remember.
Oh, okay.
No,
but so of all the people that were on that top 10, you guys didn't make it, but nobody else did either, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I mean, we ended up actually the band that ended up winning, it was called More Than Me, and we ended up playing a show with them. They came to Boston, and we played a show, our album release show. They opened for us at the Hard Rock, which was kind of cool. So we got to play with them. So it was kind of like a small community of local bands that did it. So
yeah, I think you get that when you're playing in local bands and stuff. And I could definitely echo that story as well. Going forward, I'll get back to that. I just kind of wanted to touch that because some of the stuff I'm going to talk to you about, and I get to the end and I usually ask kind of 3 quick hit questions to kind of fill space. And one of the things I'm going to discuss was, our relation in music as well. So, but let's go back. Let's go back to something in your life has made you so passionate about music that you A, wanted to play it, B, wanted to listen to it, and C, make a podcast about it. And obviously that starts at the home. I know it did for me. And knowing what I know about your dad as well, I'm sure that's going to obviously play a lot into it. But what's your first memory of music in general?
Probably riding in the back of the minivan, listening to Oldies 103.3, Boston's home station for the oldies. Yeah, listening to Motown songs and pop songs from the 50s and 60s, and Beach Boys and all that stuff. And my parents just always had music playing. My dad was a DJ, which I'm sure you had plans to get into.
Yep.
As after he finished college, he went into being a mobile DJ for like weddings and parties and stuff like that. And so music was just always on, and it was really important. And there was never a moment like you're out shooting hoops in the driveway, like you have a boombox out there and you're playing music. Like, you're sitting doing your homework, you have music playing. That's just, it was constantly.
And we kind of alluded to it, but it's a wide range. And was it that way then too? I mean, was it like everything? Did you get metal and stuff back then?
So no, it's not really. So it's actually part of why our kind of taste is so wide.
Okay.
So my mom, bless her soul, has no rhythm, tone deaf. She's but loves music, and she loves pop music, and like the pop music from the 50s and 60s and 70s, and like that whole side of things. So we heard a lot of that stuff. My dad obviously needs to know as much music as possible because he plays at weddings, and everyone has different tastes. So he needs to have a knowledge of what people want to hear and what works, and a knowledge of the psychology behind music too, because you need to know how music is going to affect people psychologically, so you can kind of play puppet master when you're doing these events, to maintain the energy flow and all that. So he was really into the Beach Boys, and then classic rock like Springsteen, Asbury Jukes, that kind of stuff. Bryan Adams, he got really into, and like, but he also really loved Jimmy Buffett. So he kind of came with this really wide range. And he also really loves funk music, which is kind of funny because he's like a white guy from Massachusetts. And he came with this, and he just exposed us to all of that. And then when I got a little bit older is when you go through that rebellious phase and you want to listen to stuff that you were never allowed to listen to growing up. So I wanted to listen to hard rock and metal, and I fell into punk rock, particularly pop punk, and it opened up my world to something that I just absolutely fell in love with, and so that kind of like steered me in that direction. I also played in band in high school and middle school, so I was exposed to a lot of classical pieces and marching band pieces and stuff like that, so I got that appreciation as well. And I ended up playing tuba in high school and college, and when you play tuba, you're the one carrying most of those tunes, most of those songs. And so I had to dive really deep into like the feel of each of these songs and what they mean and what the emotions are that you're trying to invoke. And so I just gained an appreciation for that as well. So it's just kind of coming from all different sources.
Well, that's actually on my list of questions to ask was instruments. I mean, obviously, you know, we talked before about playing, and if I remember right, you played guitar too, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but usually that starts somewhere. Usually you pick up an instrument somewhere, and I'll get to your dad in a minute. But you said tuba,
right?
How long did you play?
So I started in 4th grade.
Oh wow! Okay,
fourth grade is when they start band. I don't know if the video is actually going to be released, but finger quotes band. You know, you spend an entire year figuring out hot cross buns, but my sister had started clarinet in 4th grade, and so they said, what do you want to play? My dad had an old trumpet from when he used to play in high school or college or something, so I used that, and I picked up trumpet, and I played trumpet from 4th grade until about junior year of high school, and then we had no one to play tuba, so I was like, that looks fun. It's big and loud and low, and it's flashy, and, you know, so I was like,
and
sure,
the logistics behind it and trumpet are kind of close with the mouthpiece and
the fingering is very close. You know, for the scales, you're playing in a lower register, you're going from treble clef to bass clef, but it was an easy transition because the fingering's the same. And except when you need to transition from 3 keys to 4 keys, that threw me off a little bit, but you know, you adapt. So then that took me to marching band in college, and I played in marching band at URI. The pride of New England, the marching band at URI.
So you played for quite a long time then.
I've pretty much been playing music in some way, shape, or form since like 4th grade.
Well, so let me explain. For me, I actually played trumpet in high school. I played trumpet and marching band. I played for about 3 years, but it became uncool to me. And I know you've been in the music arena for long enough to know that kids sometimes find marching band uncool, and it's not the cool thing to do. And I think that I suffered from that because I didn't, you know, like you said, you're learning hot cross buns for 6 weeks, but you're also learning music. You're learning notes, and you're learning bass and treble clef. You're learning, you know, all the you know, the chords and how they work with single notes and back and forth. And I think I missed a lot of that. I did get some of it, and I did appreciate some of it, and I have translated some of that to guitar. But I think it's between that and cool. And I think I picked cool at the time. And it's odd to hear, you know, people that have been in it for so long and stayed in that side of it for so long and not made that your life. Like it didn't become like you weren't a professional, you know, tuba player.
No, I believe tubist is the word.
You didn't become a professional tubist.
No, but my school system was very, very small. I mean, my high school had 500 kids in it.
Oh, okay.
99 kids in my graduating class. So it's like there weren't really like cliques. There weren't the cool kids and the nerdy kids and the athletes. It was everyone did everything. So like I was by my senior year, I was president of the band, the concert band, but I also played 3 sports. I was a 3-sport athlete.
Okay.
And so like everyone did everything, right? We would roll to the movie theater 30 people deep when we go out on weekends. Like it's just, there were no cliques. There were no small groups. Everyone hung out with everyone. So I never really faced that like band is uncool kind of thing, that kind of stereotype. And then by the time you get to college, like people love the band. You go to the basketball games and the band is rocking in the stands and everything.
Exactly.
Like, and so like in college, it's different. I didn't feel that in college either. I did meet a lot of people in the marching band at URI that had gone down that path where band was their life. That's what they did in high school.
Yeah.
And then a lot of those people went on to be music teachers, you know?
Yeah.
So like I interacted with a lot of those people, but I never experienced that. Band was during a regular period of the day. It wasn't after school or anything. So it was just like part of my life, part of my schooling.
So so how did that transition to guitar? What A, got you into it, and B, what pulled you away from, what you were, I don't know, kind of making in your life at that point? How did that guitar come into that?
I love music, and you know how it started. I really wanted a guitar, and that we would get the JCPenney Christmas catalog every year, and they always had, in somewhere between the clothes and the toys, there was one page that had like a drum kit,
a 3-piece, and just a 3-piece with 2 cymbals or something.
3-piece drum kit, like a kazoo, a harmonica, and like a black Yamaha Stratocaster electric guitar. And I think for years, you circle what you want. Circled that guitar, and I just saw it, and I was like, I want an electric guitar so bad. That's just like, I really, really want it. And I remember, I had friends in middle school who, like, some of them had guitars and some of them were starting to play and stuff. And that was when I was really into the punk rock stuff, and I just wanted to be a part of that world somehow. And so I please pardon the Little Mermaid pun. I wanted to be a part of that world. Can you tell I have 3 daughters?
As long as you don't sing it, we're good.
Yeah, be careful. It might come out. I had a friend who said, she has a guitar, but she doesn't really play it that much, and she'd be willing to sell it to me for like $100. So I told my parents, I was like, I'm gonna buy this guitar for my friend. I'm gonna save up. I'm going to buy this guitar for my friend. But all I want for Christmas this year is like an amp, like a practice amp. Yeah. So I have something to play out of. And then they actually got me one of those packages that's like, it comes with the guitar and an amp and picks and a gig bag. And it's like, stuff, the whole thing is like $130 for everything you need to get started. And I opened it up and I saw that there was an amp, and then I saw the tall box, and I'm like, there's a guitar in here too. And it was just like one of the most amazing, Christmases of my life. And that was 7th grade. I got that. So I was still, playing in the band in school, but 7th grade. And then it was like, all right, let's find a buddy that can play with me, and we're going to play in the next talent show next year, and that was off to the races.
So you had quite a bit of overlap between you were playing both instruments at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm one of those guys that just I will learn an instrument to a point where it's fun to like fiddle around, and then I want to learn something new, right? So like I comfortably say that I play guitar, bass, trumpet, tuba. I've dabbled in harmonica, a little bit of keyboard. I'm just now learning Irish tenor banjo. And I tried to learn bagpipes once, but it's very, very difficult.
That's on my list. It's on my bucket list. I want to learn bagpipes, but
it is really hard.
Maybe you talk
really hard. No, don't. I don't want to talk anyone out of it. If you have the time and the energy and the brain power to put into it, definitely do it. But it's not easy. At least for me, it wasn't.
That's a really good riffing point, though. Too is you've played multiple instruments, and you share a love of music with you and your dad. Did that ever go outside? Did you ever pull anybody into music because of what you're doing? You either playing guitar and pulling. Did you ever pull somebody into learning something? I love creating a Music Musing podcast. It lets me see how music affects people in different ways. We're always looking for interesting guests, so if you know someone in the music industry or someone who really has a great music-related story, reach out to us at musicmusingfeedback@gmail.com. This podcast is produced out of my pocket, so if you want to help with that process, we also have a Patreon at patreon.com/musicmusing. You can join for as little as $1 a month, and we have some cool behind-the-scenes pictures and stories, and even a sticker. You could even co-host a show idea that you have rolling around in your head. And lastly, please leave us a great review on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on. It helps us reach out to more people who may enjoy these conversations. Thank you for your time, and back to the Music Musing podcast. Did you ever pull somebody into learning something?
I had a buddy, my best friend from high school. He's actually still my best friend. I still talk to him pretty regularly. Nobody plays bass in middle school and high school. And so I convinced him
that cool thing again.
Yeah, I convinced him to buy like this killer blue Ibanez bass and a little bass practice amp, and we would mess around, and he never really dove into it too much. He didn't it didn't grab him like it did for me, or like it does for some people, but I had someone to mash strings with a little bit, so I was pretty proud of that. But other than that, I've found my way by becoming friends and acquaintances with other people who play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of the way it goes mostly.
You find out someone in your class plays something, and you're like, oh, in high school, it's like we should start a band.
And it's weird.
I think I played in like 4 different bands in high school.
Yeah, and it's weird because you sometimes don't know. Like we found our first drummer for my band. I worked with him at where I was working in a corporate job, and we'd known each other for 6 months, and just out of the blue, he's like, yeah, I set my drum kit up the other day. I'm like, you play drums? We've been looking for a drummer for 3 months. How did I not know this? And it's just weird how that starts intertwining with each other.
Yeah. And then before you know it, you're inseparable, and then you get sick of each other.
Yeah. Yeah, boy. Okay. Well, I could go down a tangent on that, because that happens. And, obviously when you're playing in a band, in a marching band or a full-fledged band with horns and woodwinds and timpanis and drum sections, you're really kind of focused on that all is one thing. But when you get into a local band, when you get into high school bands, and when you get into a local band where you're actually making money, where you're getting money from the door, or you're getting money from selling t-shirts and stickers and stuff, it's different.
Well, there's egos, right?
Yeah.
In a band like a concert band or marching band, there's no egos. And I think it's because everybody is reliant on everyone else. If one person doesn't show up, or if one person messes up, like, you're not affecting like a 5-piece band playing for 30 people in a bar. Your mess up is going to reflect on every single other person on that football field and everyone that's watching. So like there's no egos in that. And I think Drumline tried really hard to create a storyline where there was an ego, and it like almost worked, but it was not believable because it doesn't happen. No, that I've seen. I'm sure some people will say, oh, there was this guy in my high school, whatever. But in a like a 5-piece rock band or a local band or whatever, like there's bound to be egos, and it's not that that's a bad thing. I think you need to have a little bit of an ego to put yourself out there, have the confidence to do that. It's when those egos kind of clash that sometimes there's problems. And like my band didn't break up because of that. My band broke up because there were other opportunities. We had one of our members who was having some health problems, and so he took a break, and we had trouble replacing him. And then that's a whole other story. It wasn't because we had these like big egos that like someone wanted to be Freddie Mercury and someone wanted to be like, Slash. It wasn't like that. But that does happen. So it's actually one of the questions I had on my list of, I usually put like 4 or 5 that I'm going to ask on those last 3 bit one hits. And I usually end up asking some of them in the middle, and I'm going to ask one of them right now. Do you ever have a memorable time on stage where you blew it? Where you just totally... Where I blew it? Well, I'll tell you what. So when we recorded our album, we had one song that was very bass heavy, and I wrote a bass line for it that was like... It was like my... I think I mentioned it on one of the podcast episodes. It was like my Saw Her Standing There song, right? Yeah. Where it was just a constant moving bass line that I played through the whole thing, and it was kind of a funk song, so it was pretty upbeat, and I just dragged on it. And to this day, I can't listen to that song because it's just dragging a little bit. And I'm just like, it's so embarrassing, and I never want anyone to hear it. Did you guys not use ClickTrack? We did. I just, it was my first time recording in a studio, and I just wasn't used to it. And well, we recorded an album, but we did not use a ClickTrack. And I would say that as far as recording goes, same story. There's a lot of spots where I drift off either ahead or backwards, and I hate the sound of that. But I meant on stage, did you ever have like I had my amp go out once, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it till 2 songs later, and then everybody's yelling at me, and I'm like, oh crap. I mean, probably. None you want to remember? we did a lot of like dancing around, and we
Yeah.
had more fun on stage than I think the people in the crowd would have. So we were always kind of, and I know I've hit a couple microphones with the head of my bass, which is just you just keep going, whatever. I'm not one that gets embarrassed when when stuff like that happens, really. So it's hard to remember. I know I did hit our guitarist once with my bass head. That was
there you go.
About that. I did feel bad about that.
So I'll jump back again. So your dad was kind of the major influence. You said your mom was into music, but not really, probably not into it like you two are.
Well, she loves it. She's just not, she's not a musician. So
okay.
She just she likes to listen. She does.
That's the other question.
She's right on board.
Did your dad play an instrument?
He played trumpet.
Oh, he did. Okay.
And I think it was in high school. I don't know about college. I know he played in high school because it was his trumpet that I was.
Yeah,
playing.
you mentioned he had one. I forgot about that. But so he didn't carry that on. That once he got the DJing, it was kind of all that, right?
Yeah, and he really wants to learn. I gave him. I left my first acoustic guitar with him because he does want to learn. But he plays lefty air guitar.
Oh.
So I think it's weird for him to try and like actually learn how to play guitar.
Yeah.
He's right-handed. So. And he really wants to, I got the Irish tenor banjo and I'm learning traditional session tunes and stuff. And he wants to kind of do that with me too. So he got himself a boran. So he's going to try his hand at percussion instruments a little bit. So
nice. Yeah. But so he, in doing the DJing stuff, I assume you went with him on a regular basis, or did you?
Once I was of a certain age.
Okay.
Yes. Eighth grade through high school. I did a lot of, like I was crashing weddings before the movie started, is what I like to say. The movie came out, because I'd be showing up to these weddings to work with him, and like you eat the awesome food and you get to play all the music, and it was fun.
Well, that's where I was going with that. Did you get to pick any at any points?
Yeah, I had like a mental list of safe songs that I knew I could play, because he would have things where he'd be talking to people, or people would be doing requests, or he'd be talking to mother of the bride or whatever, logistical stuff, and he would have to like point over to me like, hey, like next song, like you got to cue something up, like this song is ending. And so I would have like a few kind of go-tos. It was always Van Morrison. I would play Moondance every time.
Oh man, that's a good song too.
Yeah, well, it's a great dinner song because it's not slow, but it's not too fast, and it's kind of good background music, So like I did get the opportunities, but he was always anxious and always nervous and kind of stressed about it. He wants to do as good as he can and make it really special for the bride and groom. So he maintained control most of the time. I was kind of the like apprentice that watched from the sidelines.
Yeah, and I think that kind of what you just said there ties back into what you mentioned about, the music has to fit the mood, or you can't be playing "You Shook Me All Night Long" when they're having the mother-son dance. I mean, those don't go together. So
and when you talk to him, he will give you the whole rundown on that.
And I'm dying to do that. That's one of the things I'm going to pick his brain about.
I could talk about it, but I don't want to take away from that conversation because he'll do much better job.
Well, but that also ties into another question I had for you is obviously with being so interested in music, both playing and listening, and being very cautious about what you listen to and when you listen to it and how you listen to it, there's obvious times in people's lives that music has connected a specific memory to it, or vice versa. You've taken a memory and it's really connected just because the song was playing, not because you chose that song. Do you have the both ends of the spectrum? Do you have a song that reminds you of something that was extremely happy in your life, and do you have a song that reminds you of something extremely unhappy or sad in your life?
So yeah, I have a couple. So one of my favorite memories, music related memories, besides like the stuff from when I was in the band, was being a little kid in the 90s and doing the whole waiting on the radio station to hit record on the tape deck but we also had my dad taught us how to record from CDs. So he had this ridiculous CD collection, right?
Yeah.
We had the big boom boxes, and he would teach us how you put the CD in, play the CD, and then record that onto a blank cassette tape. Or if you took a commercial cassette tape and put a little tape over the little holes on the top of it, you could record over it. That's a little secret that not a lot of people knew.
Or care about it anymore.
So we were making mixtapes when we were kids, growing up in the 90s. And I remember sitting in his office there with the boombox there, recording It's the End of the World as We Know It by R.E.M., and then playing it over and over again until I knew every single word in that song.
Awesome.
I loved that song so much. I've always been a huge fan of R.E.M., and that, like, I think I could still get through probably about 85 to 90% of it without skipping a beat.
That's a hard one to take on.
Yeah, it is. But, I was determined because that was like my favorite song at the time. I loved it. Yeah, I have a couple. I mean, my first CD that I remember, it's a big deal in a musical family like this. When I grew up, it was a big deal when you got your first boombox, right? You got your first stereo,
something to play all that stuff on.
That's a big deal. So I remember my sister got a stereo, and she got like the Mighty Mighty Boss Stones album and a couple other CDs, No Doubt, Tragic Kingdom, and I was just like so jealous. I was like, God, that's not fair. So then the next year, I got a stereo, and I got my first CD was Now. The first Now CD.
Wow. With
now,
all
that's
the
what
mix,
I call music.
The mix.
It wasn't even called Now 1. It was just called Now because there weren't any sequels yet. And it actually had a couple rock and roll songs on it before. It was now it's like all pop and hip hop stuff. But and I just thought that was so cool. And I'm never going to forget. That's the first CD I ever owned. And then I have two more stories that I can share. I mean,
that's what we're here for.
I remember one of the first. I don't remember the first CD that I bought. I remember the first CD that I bought on my own, like without any kind of influence. Right, where it's like, oh, my parents brought me out, and I was like, I want this CD, and they'd say, no, it has an explicit label, and blah, blah, blah. And like the first time that I did this on my own, and I was walking into Walmart, and I found a $20 bill in the parking lot, and I was like, well, this is not money that I expected to have. I have nothing that I'm saving up for. I was like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna find an album, a CD that looks cool.
Oh no!
Because at the time, I had access to like everything that I liked because my dad had every. So it wasn't like, oh, I've been waiting to get this new whatever CD. I was like, I'm gonna go in and find something that looks cool, and I'm gonna spend this $20 on it because it's basically free to me.
I'm already scared.
Don't be scared. It was Tool. It was Tool, Lateralis.
Yeah.
I saw the CD case for Lateralis, and I was like, that is cool. I was like, there's something about this that is just really, really cool. And I didn't know music like that existed. I mean, I knew hard rock. And I had heard some of the more technical rock, classic rock stuff like Rush and some of the other math rock kind of stuff. But this was on a whole other level, and I didn't even know it existed. And it was so cool. And I just felt so cool that I had that CD. I didn't even listen to it that much.
You
but
should
I thought it was
still feel cool that you had that CD because that CD is amazing.
It really is. It really is. And it was fortunate, I think it had just come out recently, so it was kind of advertised on the rock and roll front shelf. Back when they used to have a lot more CDs and it was a bigger deal at Walmart.
Yep.
And it was like $18.99. I was like, got this $20 bill. I'm going through the hologram booklet that it had inside. It was so cool, And then the last story that I'll share comes actually from a few years ago.
Okay.
And I was a guest on. Shoot, what is the name of that? I was a guest on another podcast, and I can't remember what it is. I feel really bad. I feel really guilty about it. But
if you remember later, we can stick it on the notes. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna drive me nuts. But it's a show where she has guests on, and they talk about a song that influenced them in a certain way and to tell that story. And it's usually pretty emotional and all that. And I told a story about how when my first daughter was a baby, she had all kinds of stomach issues and allergies, food allergies and stuff. So we had to buy this like super expensive formula. It was like $50 a can.
Wow.
And it was hard to find. And she ran out one night. And so I'm out in like 9-10 o'clock at night, scouring all these different stores trying to find it.
Wow.
I finally found one, and the line at Walgreens was like 10 people long, and I was angry and frustrated. And then the song dun, 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 dun. I need to have my Spotify open so I can read Death Cab for Cutie. What is a Death Cab for Cutie song? You think I'd be more prepared?
I
With
should
this
open
kind of
that. I specifically don't have anybody prepared with these because I like
Soul Meets Body, yeah.
Okay, there you
So
go.
it's a song called Soul Meets Body. I don't know if you know it. It's just a beautiful song, and I had heard it before, but in that moment, for some reason, like the sound of the chorus and like all these, you can go back and listen to the episode I was on. It really like hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And I just like, I was not angry anymore. I wasn't frustrated. I was like feeling better, and just like it kind of made everything go a little bit smoother that night. And so like to this day, that song just makes me feel good.
And
it's,
it wasn't
really nice.
And it feels like it wasn't something that was just, oh, it's background music, it's just playing. You and I kind of have a feeling we do this same way, because I do this. I key in. I immediately recognize that song is playing and that song is hitting me a certain way. And it's not like, oh, there's a song on, I'm just going to remember this because of this time and it brought me down. I'm keying on it. And you're also keying on it probably for the same reasons I do, is I'm thinking about it. Wow, I've listened to this song before, but these words mean something completely different to me right now. Completely
and that's
different.
the thing. It's like the words don't mean anything to me in that song. It's all about the melody and the chorus, the sound of the chorus. Because what they do is the first time they do the chorus, they just do like ba da ba da ba ba and like that. And then the second time they do the chorus, they actually sing words to the same melody.
Oh, nice!
And it's just a really big change that is like kind of like makes you perk up a little,
So I was going to go with the Tool route, but I'm going to stop right there and go a different route. So with you being a guitar player, and I do this a lot. My brother and I used to argue about this a lot because he listened to a lot of music for the words, and I listened to a lot of the music for the music, because the music is what really appeals to me being a guitar player. Do you feel that that's kind of the same with what you listen to music for? Or I know you kind of dissect music deeply with your podcast, but are you immediately attracted to the music more than you are the lyrics?
I mean, it depends. There are songs that I listen to, and if a song doesn't have good music or good melody or a good vocal, and it's just like someone who's just bad, then the lyrics could say the most beautiful things in the world, and I would just be like, I just don't want to listen to that. But I think it comes back to the whole ensemble thing, and something that I learned from being in marching bands and concert bands is like the whole picture, how everything works, especially as a musician. Like, you have those moments where if you're writing songs with people or whatever, where you think about your part and how can I stand out? How can I be featured in this? And like, how am I going to put my mark on this song? But when it comes down to it, what makes it fun is the whole thing.
Everybody putting their mark on it.
Everyone playing together. So like when I play guitar, like I'm not a lead guitarist. I'm just not good enough to be like ripping solos and shredding and all that stuff.
Same.
I like playing rhythm guitar because I still get to play music.
Yeah.
But I can jump around, I can run around, I can really just, bang out power chords and just have a lot of fun. Or I could sing while I'm playing, and like I like that too. So it's just like,
do you find yourself following the drums a lot when you're playing?
When I'm listening or when I'm playing?
Well, when you're playing, because I got the criticism for our music at one point in time that a lot of my rhythms followed the drum line a lot. And it was subconscious. It wasn't me consciously thinking, oh, I'm going to, follow the drum line. But I would write a song, the drums would come in, and I'd kind of change the song almost to match a little bit of the drums. I didn't know if that was something you had consciously thought about, or
not really. No, I mean, when I was playing bass in my band, I was in tune a lot with the guitarists.
Really?
I was really good friends. The guy who brought me in was actually the acoustic guitarist, and then I got to be pretty close with the lead guitarist, and so I would follow what they're doing a lot.
Gotcha.
Our lead guitarist was, he was a Berklee graduate and just ridiculous guitar player, just out of control. And so like I would try to follow him as much as I could.
If you could be a shredder, would you be a shredder?
It's not my kind of music.
Same here. I just, everybody's like Malmsteen,
I'm not into that, like,
no.
Yeah, I'm not into the 80s metal or like any of the fast. Like I would love to be able to do more intricate solos over stuff, like outside of the pentatonic box. But I don't have time to practice. I don't have time to dedicate to it.
It's so easy in that pentatonic box to just do some bends and do a little bit of slide.
Yeah, and then go right into the rest of the song.
Exactly. Okay, now I'm going to skip back to the Tool thing, because it's actually one of the questions I had set up for my final three questions. But Tool is definitely known for their odd time signatures. Is that something, do you think, well, two-part question. Is that why you think Tool appealed to you on that album? And part two,
no, it was all visual.
Oh, it was all visual?
I had never heard them before.
Well, no,
I didn't know they existed.
I guess after the fact, were you attracted to the music because of those odd time signatures, or do they not mean anything to you? Or, and then part two is it something that you seek out in music sometimes?
Not so much.
Okay.
I think, from what I seek out is the hook.
Oh, okay.
Whether it's and a lot of times the ones that really get me are vocal hooks.
Okay.
Like when we talked about Tom Petty's song "Don't Do Me Like That," the vocal hook in that verse gets me every time. So that's like what attracts me to it. What roped me in with that Tool album was that bass line in the beginning of Schism.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You knew where I was going.
I knew exactly where you were going with that one.
It's unmatched. It's crazy. I mean,
it's so funny because my wife just learned that, she's got it on her list to learn. We just put it on her list to learn. She wants to learn some bass lines, and that was like the first one she wanted to reach out for.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the way that song is put together is so cool, and it's different from a lot of the other songs on that album. Lateralis is similar to it, but it stands out. And that was the first song that I heard because it, on the front it said like, featuring, their hit single Schism or whatever. And I was like, okay, so I'll listen to that one first. And I was like, whoa,
blow your mind.
Yeah. And I had never played a bass guitar at that point yet. So, it wasn't even that like, because it's bass, it grabbed me. But
so I'm going to kind of tie it up and then hit you with those three odd questions. But you sound like you're still playing. You still have the guitar there in the back, or the banjo you're starting to play in the back. You have your guitar closed and ready to go.
Always within reach.
Are you still playing a band? Or
No, I'm not playing any bands right now.
Yeah, same here. I would love to, but it's family. It's hard. It's kind of hard to get around that.
I mean, I got 3 kids, a wife, full-time job, and there's a pandemic. So
yeah, exactly. It makes it really hard to do that kind of stuff nowadays.
Yeah. Exactly.
But is it, if given the opportunity to get back out to play again, would that be something you would want to pursue again? Do you miss writing and being in that?
I would love to, but I would want to do so. The band that I played in was like a kind of a adult contemporary rock band, right?
Okay.
Like we likened ourselves to like Matchbox 20, kind of Little Third Eye Blind,
there you go.
Hootie and the Blowfish, that kind of stuff. Which is great. And don't get me wrong, humble brag, not so humble brag. We were good. We had good music. We played good songs. But if I were to be in a band, I'm going to be picky about what we play. That's not the kind of stuff that I listen to all the time. I would love to play in a hardcore punk band or a Celtic punk band because I love Celtic music and I love punk rock. Like I would love that, or something along the lines of Dave House or Brian Fallon, Gaslight Anthem, or Against Me. Like those are the bands that I love to listen to.
Yes.
And that's the kind of music that I would like to play. And I have a buddy from high school who was in that pop punk band that I played in high school. And I've been connected with him a little bit. His name's Ricky Gray, phenomenal drummer. And he's more into the hardcore scene. But I was like once this whole thing tones down, like we should try to get together and do something because it just be fun to play with people again. Yeah,
I do appreciate it. I'm the same way. I have a daughter that's away and a son that's home, and I'm married, and obviously the pandemic, full-time job, same thing too. But it's always that
e-learning,
Yeah, exactly. It because we both do that. I forgot about that. But it's still that pull all the time for me. Again, the same. You can see their guitars in the background. They're always within arm's reach of me as well. And if I feel like something, I'll pick it up and start playing. But I still have that same pull. I still have that same pull to want to do that. And I think that kind of ties all the way back to the beginning. What we talked about this is it's been part of your life, most of your life. Not only both listening and playing at the same time, even different instruments. But I think that kind of ties this around into a nice little bow and why I have people like you on, like you and your dad on, as I want to just talk about your music and how it's infected your life and how you grew up with it, because there are people out there that don't care about music. And I understand that. And I appreciate that. There are people that will turn the radio on in the background and never even think twice about a song. Mm-hmm. Those are the people that I push to your podcast because I love the fact that you challenge people. I mean, it's a great challenge to listen through your ears through those songs that they probably never heard before, and especially different genres. So
well, that's what I was going to say. That's kind of the reason we did it, is because when I had that conversation at lunch break, well, it was like, wait, you don't listen to music, like you, and that's why it's called You're Not Listening, is because there's people out there who like music and they hear it, but they don't listen to it. And so we want people to actively listen to it. It's the reason that I can come on and say, all right, today we're going to listen to Achy Breaky Heart. And I'm going to tell you what makes this song great. And it's, is it a good song? No. Are there good things in it? Yeah. Absolutely. Let's listen to it. Let's find them. Let's figure out why this song became. We did. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I did do that one. My ultimate one that I'm leading up to is Angel of the Morning by Juice Newton.
Yeah.
That is, that's kind of one that sparked me to jump on it, but I haven't done that one yet.
So I'm going to go on a side personal tangent here. My mom taught exercise classes, so she did the mixtape stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. And she actually mixed from an 8-track down to a cassette, which is
nice,
impossible. But that was one of the songs. That was one of the warm-up songs. So I know that one very, very well.
Great songs. Maybe I'll do that when we have you on.
I was going to say, I'm fine with that. I will definitely do that. Okay, three quick hits. Favorite non-music podcast?
God, it used to be the Cracked podcast, but it went way down. The ones I listen to are so specific. I would say.
Yeah, no, check the phone.
Is it bad if I do my other podcast that I do for work? That's not fair.
No, I'm fine. If it's, I always look for what's kind of outside just the music, because obviously
the one that I always kind of point to is my friends Jonathan and Crystal have a podcast called Haunt Weekly, and it's for people who love Halloween. So if you like Halloween, you probably like that one.
Oh, that's cool. I might actually check that one out. I do.
Yeah. And then another one that I really like is Generation Y, which is true crime.
Yeah, that's all my wife. I'll turn that on to her.
Yeah, and this Paranormal Life is a fun comedy paranormal podcast. That's another fun.
Okay, so favorite cover song.
Oh, come on.
To listen to. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the absolute favorite. Just kind of the first one that comes to mind that you like listening to.
I'll do two right now that I really like right now. One is I Only Want to Be With You by Volbeat, covered by Volbeat.
Oh, I love that one. Oh,
and
so
anyone who listens to the show probably has picked up that I am a ridiculously huge Green Day fan.
Yes.
And so, I really love Billy Joe Armstrong's cover of Manic Monday.
Really? Interesting. So I'm assuming you've heard their early version of the Who cover, the My Generation. I found that as my favorite cover song by them, and then I listened to that version of Manic Monday, and I'm like, this is really good. Now, did he do all the instruments on that?
No, I think his sons played with him.
Oh, right, that's what it was. Yeah, I knew it was somebody different. It wasn't the band.
Yeah, he did guitar and vocals, and then his sons played drums and bass.
Yes, so
which is pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So third question, but still part of the second question is, what's your favorite cover song to play? Guitar.
Oh man, I don't know because I've fallen into that thing where it's like you just play riffs, right? So like you'll put a song on and play like the first 30 seconds of it.
I did that 3 times last night. I picked 3 songs on acoustic I wanted to learn, and I played the first 2 measures, and I was done with all of them.
That's it. And then you go do something, and then you start noodling. You get the pentatonic scale.
Yeah. So
when I was in the band, my favorite cover song that we played was actually we did a cover of Faith, and it was kind of a cross between the original and Limp Bizkit's cover. It was like hard rock without the yelling.
Oh, nice.
And that was really fun. And then we also played a song called Dynamo Volition by Jason Mraz.
Like rock version of it, or?
No, we played it pretty straight up.
Oh, okay.
It's a fun song.
Cool.
It is just a fun one to play.
Yeah, that's like I said. I just throw 3 questions at the end, just kind of stretch your brain a little bit and see how things are.
Yeah, I think a lot of my number 1 song on Spotify Wrapped this year was a song called "White People for Peace" by Against Me, and that's because I would put it on and just play the beginning, and I was trying to learn it, like all of the different riffs in the beginning of that song, so I just play it over and over and over again.
That's hilarious. Well, and if I'm not mistaken, I did this. I'll ask you if you did too as well, but that's how I learned songs. That's how I learned songs back in those 90s and stuff when we were talking about is I put a song on and I played it over and over again. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I got yelled at for don't play that song again. I can't listen to it one more time.
Yeah. So. See, for me, it wasn't long before, well, I played a lot of like playing in headphones, but for me, it wasn't long after I started playing guitar before you could just search the internet for guitar tabs.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I was still Guitar Magazine when I started playing.
Yeah, and they have like 3 songs in the back, right? With the tabs
and you have to wait
notes.
for the next episode or for the next magazine to come out, but to get the one song that you wanted. Yeah,
and it's like Margaritaville and then some deep cut Led Zeppelin song that nobody likes, and
then the one song that you wanted to hear or wanted to learn. So hey, Shaun, thank you for coming on. I'm looking forward to having your dad on and kind of seeing how these kind of compare. But share all the information that you've got on your podcast and what you got going on.
Sure. Again, the podcast is called You're Not Listening. It's a music podcast. We called it that for SEO purposes, in case anyone's interested why we made it such a long title. And it's on every podcast platform, any place. We're actually on, most of our listens come from Pandora, which is interesting to me. I'm not sure how that works, but we're proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, which is just a group of amazing music podcasts, and they're doing some really cool stuff. So make sure you check out pantheonpodcast.com, check out ynlpodcast.com, find us at YNL Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. We're not super active on there, but we are on there, so you can connect with us through there.
Awesome.
And I think that's it.
Awesome. Shaun, thanks again. I appreciate it. And
hey, if you're interested, give me your address. I'll send you my band's album because I recently found a box in my basement of 500 of them.
Yes. I think I mentioned that the other day when we were, months ago when we were on that podcast together. I'm like, I'd love to hear it. Yes, I'm done. I will be sending that to you.
The band is Kingston 530. If anybody wants to find us on Spotify, look at this. Look at how cheesy this is.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is nice.
Yep. Oh yeah. So I can send you one. Send me your address. I'll send you a few copies because I literally have a box of 500 of them. I don't know what to do with them. I don't have the heart to like throw them out or burn them or whatever.
Well, this will be on the podcast, so I'll have your information so people can request them through the podcast too.
Yeah, there we go. I'm sure everyone wants to hear it. You know what's funny about it is the artist who did the artwork messed up the track order, so there are 2 songs that are in the wrong place. So I was like, what are we going to do about this? My singer was like, I guess those are the names of those songs now. I'm like, that doesn't work. So,
but aren't they in the chorus? Like, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's hilarious.
I mean, classic first band stuff, you know?
That's true.
Like if we were to make it big and then re-release this album, we would have fixed it. And then these ones would be like,
those would be like the $300 ones that people would be selling on eBay and stuff at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks again, man. I appreciate it. I'll catch up to you later.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
Thank you for choosing Music Musing. We hope this story not only gave you a little insight to what music means to someone, but it may also change how music fits into your life. So be sure and drop us a line at MusicMusingFeedback@gmail.com and let us know your music story.